741, News Radio 1029 KARN. First News, Kevin Miller joined by Senator Tom Cotton. Good morning to you, sir. How you doing today?
Good, Kevin. Hope you're doing well, too.
Hanging in there. All right, look, I got to ask you about this. You were on, I don't remember which show it was this weekend, but a national show talking about Chinese students. What's the issue there? What's going on with Chinese students?
Kevin, the FBI has been reporting for years now that the Chinese Communist Party has a well-considered and deliberate plan to send, in many cases, the children of Chinese Communist Party officials to the United States, first to try to collect or, if necessary, steal valuable intelligence from our most sensitive and advanced laboratories, but second, to develop the knowledge base to help displace the United States as the world's greatest economic and ultimately military power. We ought not be educating our enemies' next generation of leaders in some of the most advanced scientific fields in the world.
Should that same idea apply to other foreign students too?
Well, it's not the same kind of risk when you're talking about, say, someone who's British or French or Japanese or what have you. But hold on for a second, Tim.
Got some things there at the house going on. That's what happens when you work from home sometimes.
Hey, sorry about that, Kevin.
No worries.
So when you're dealing with allies as opposed to your number one enemy, an enemy that has the direct and express intent to try to replace you as the world's economic and military superpower, then no, you have a very different standard. And again, it's a well-documented phenomenon by the FBI that's testified numerous times in Congress about this, that is a risk to our economic prosperity and our national security to allow Chinese students to continue to study, especially at the postgraduate level in the most scientific and advanced technological fields.
Yeah, that was a curious question I had about that. I mean, the idea that education should be isn't exclusive; it should be shared. But I mean, how many Chinese students would have access to that type of research or information? That would be the big question.
Yeah, well, Kevin, it's a disturbingly high number, I can tell you. As I remarked in shorthand language, which I think most Arkansans can understand, China needs the Federalist Papers in the United States. They need to understand how to have constitutional democratic government. They don't need quantum computing and artificial intelligence from the United States. Of course, though, the communist leaders in Beijing don't want their people to study the Federalist Papers. They don't want them to read the Lincoln-Douglas debates. They want to train them in the scientific and technological fields that they think they need to replace us as the world's leading power. And unfortunately, they have had real success over the last decades in accomplishing that, as the FBI has stated on numerous occasions.
Senator Tom Cotton, News Radio 1029 KRN. Relief for coronavirus that worked its way through Congress. Get an update, or if you would give an update on what took place there, and what also is the game plan going forward here in Washington.
So last week's bill was largely adding more money to programs that we had enacted in March, especially the so-called Paycheck Protection Program that lets small businesses support their workers by keeping them on payroll, and the government will ultimately forgive those loans if small businesses keep their workers on payroll. So ultimately, it doesn't just keep businesses in business during the worst of this crisis, but even more important, it keeps workers employed during this crisis. We have a little bit more flexibility for, say, seasonal businesses, so businesses that are now just ramping up for the summer months, or businesses that are winding down for the winter months. In that legislation, we also provided more money for hospitals and a lot more money for testing. So I think what you saw last week was just an effort to build upon very effective and popular programs that we enacted in March. Obviously, there's some of the usual bureaucratic snafus you have anytime the government is trying to move very quickly to establish new programs. I heard from a lot of bankers yesterday who are struggling with the computer systems that Small Business Administration has. We've been working with the SBA to try to get through those to make sure that our local banks serve our businesses in our hometowns, to keep those businesses afloat, to get people back to work in what we hope will now just be a matter of weeks, certainly not months.
Senator Tom Cotton, I want to hit on something here I don't find much information about in the news, and that's foreign threats against the U.S. We've had Iran that's been a little bit provocative there towards some U.S. ships. North Korea, what do we know about Kim Jong-un? What's happening in those situations?
Well, Iran has been hit itself very hard with the coronavirus, and I think that's led to some instability inside of Tehran. I think the president's statement last week that we would destroy any naval patrol craft that approached our vessels in the Persian Gulf sent a welcome signal to Tehran's leaders. In North Korea, Kevin, I'm not able to share any information at this point. It's a closed society, and I usually don't know much, but I think it's fair to say that Kim Jong-un has a lot of conditions that might be called comorbidities.
Okay. We'll go with that then. It sounds like a busy day around the Cotton household this morning.
Well, as a lot of people are experiencing these days, it is. But we'll keep plugging away and doing people's business for Arkansas and trying to keep the kids on track as well.
Yeah, you do what you can. Senator Tom Cotton, good to have you on this morning. Thanks so much.
All right. Take care.
All
Thanks,
right.
Kevin.